jungles of Costa Rica to the mountains of Whistler to the skyscrapers of Toronto. Here we are.
It's been a journey, yeah, for sure.
You ready to get the hell out of here yet?
Yeah, I'm pretty close for sure. Definitely. I'm feeling it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, coming back from BC and just walking around downtown here in King West, the sirens and the honking and the people. Yeah.
That's just BC. You know Costa Rica, too.
Yeah.
And extended periods, it's like almost 7 years now there.
Yeah.
And each year coming back, you can see the measuring stick gets longer
Oh,
and longer and longer. Yeah.
I can't even imagine what a paradox, what a juxtaposition must be from spending time in the jungle and that pace, everything chill for months on end, and then coming back and dealing with this. Like I go away 2 weeks, I come back, I'm like, I can't imagine what it must be like for a few months.
Yeah.
So you've been in Costa Rica 7 months now. So
7 years. Yeah.
7 years. And obviously we've been friends for almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
And I know a bit about your journey, but walk me through it, because you're originally a BC boy from St. George.
Prince George.
I'm on a roll today.
Yeah, I grew up in Prince George, BC, which is about 10 hours north of Vancouver. And I was there till about 18, and then I got scouted for modeling.
Because you're really good looking.
Ridiculously. And that was kind of the beginning of my escape from that little town. I mean, I'm very grateful to have grown up there, growing up in nature and just being really connected. Because you've never been out of it, like coming here and seeing people who, for instance, I had a really funny experience on the weekend. I was in Muskoka, and this girl was freaking out because on the drive up, she'd seen a deer. And I was like, why are you so excited? She goes, it's the first wild animal I've ever seen. And I was like, where are you from? And she's like, Mississauga. And I'm like, how old are you? She goes, 23. And it just really, there was another one of those, like I was saying, the measuring stick of seeing people in the city, sort of like the Matrix, and the extraction from nature and we are nature. Do you know what I mean? People are like, you need to get into nature. Yeah, of course, because we are nature, Yeah. So just to have that moment and just really see where I came from, which was fully immersed in nature, in the reverse, coming to the city and being like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And why is everybody in such a hurry? And where am I missing out on something? Like, where's the finish line? Because it was just so dramatic. So, being able to have both worlds, growing up in that, and now being able to reconnect with it. Obviously a different environment. It's more jungle. It's a lot warmer, but it's still nature. And so for me, it's a little more effortless than the average person who's grown up in the city to come to there, and the extremity.
Right.
It's not so vast for me.
So being like small town country boy in Prince George, moved to Toronto, start this modeling lifestyle, and you're working here, you're working, abroad. You were an international.
Yeah, almost 3 years in Europe.
Right.
From back and forth, and then New York for a year, and traveling all through Asia and Africa and Australia, and then, once at that point is kind of when I had the awakening, my spiritual awakening part, and that's when I started to sort of shift things. It wasn't so much about the modeling. It was more, where can I go where I can model, make money, support my trip, but also study culture and study different perspectives on life, but directly, not in a book, but live it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of at that midpoint where I started to, India, Africa, those things, and starting to study yoga and Tai Chi and Qigong and meditation and all of those.
And was there a specific moment, was there one incident that was a catalyst from living this Playboy model life to becoming this spiritual Playboy model life?
Yeah, actually, it was a period, because I had grown up in nature and I had been so connected to it. I didn't know that other people, I thought everybody was like that. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I came to the city and sort of got disconnected through, the party scene and all of that stuff, and being so away from nature, that I had these moments where I wasn't having the synchronicities that I was used to. I wasn't having the ideas, the concepts, the creativity. And so I kind of lost part of myself. And then that's when I noticed, I was like, something's wrong. And I wasn't sure if I was sick or something. Went to doctors, everybody's like, you're fine and stuff. But there was a deep aspect that was like not making sense to me. It wasn't thing. So I ended up going back home actually and spending time with my family again and reconnecting with my roots and my mom and my sister and getting back into nature and going out into the wilderness with my dog and then I had a moment actually. I had a full catharsis and I actually started praying and was like, God, if you're there, it's time for you to reveal yourself. And then a funny thing was I came back to Toronto and I walked into my house where I was living with Ralph, one of our very good friends, and there was a book sitting on this table, and Ralph doesn't read. So I'm like, why is there this book on this table? And I'm like, whose book is this? And he's like, I don't know. And the cover was missing. So it was just this white book sitting on this table. And throughout the day and that evening, everywhere I went in the house, if I was in the washroom, like doing my teeth, the mirror, I could see this book. And then I'm in my living room and through the window reflection, this book. And it was just calling to me. So finally I opened this book and I start like looking through it. And there's this conversation. I'm like halfway through the book. So I'm just looking to see, and there's this conversation happening, talking about duality and spirituality. And I'm kind of confused because I wasn't, starting from the beginning. So I get to this I open up the foreword. And it's saying, I've heard your prayers. I've heard you call out to me.
Wow.
And this is your opportunity to have a conversation with God. And the book was called Conversations with God.
Yeah, my buddy Nick's reading it right now. Yeah.
So this was 2000.
Okay. And
that was the moment that, I had this full catharsis with this book. I read the whole thing in like 4 days.
Amazing.
And I couldn't put it down. I'd think of a question, and all of a sudden the answer was coming the next page, and I'm like, what is going on? So that was the
cool.
Sort of catalyst to my journey, essentially.
Nice. Now, for as long as I've known you, you've been a gypsy. You've been all over the place, living in many different parts of the world. You were in Mexico for a while, then you came back for a bit, and off and on we've always worked together. And then you ended up in Costa Rica, and you've really made it your home. Planted some roots there. You've got your business there. You've got a bunch of stuff going on there. So, what was it about Costa Rica how did you end up there, and what kept you there?
Well, what happened was through my travels, and especially Mexico when I got down there to Playa del Carmen when we started that BPM festival, all the friends and stuff got together and did that, and they invited me to come check it out. Through my travels, I lived in Barcelona for a year, and I really fell in love with beach life. That's where I felt most myself, and the only thing was the city still. I didn't want to be in a city. Like, I loved Barcelona, but it was still too much for me. So when I got to Playa, it was sort of a taste of that smaller, more community, even though it was still a little crazy. I kind of got the tail end of it before it went really commercial. And so once I was there, I kind of pushed myself to create some things there to see if I had the ability outside of modeling to do something. So, I created the movies on the beach thing and started doing little beach parties and all this stuff and did really well. And in a good way, it proved to me that I could do anything essentially if I put my mind to it and get creative. On the bad side, it drew a lot of attention with the cartels and like people there that weren't too happy that I was taking business away from them. And so that's kind of what pushed me out, because I was like, this isn't my fight. And so when I came back to Toronto, at that moment I knew it was just sort of like a moment to recalibrate, realign, and find the next spot. And when I had, I came back to you guys and said, I'm done, I'm finished. I told my agency I'm done, like I'm finished. When I made that commitment, a series of synchronicities started to happen. It was literally in within 3 days, Costa Rica must have came up 20 times. Wow. Standing in line, having breakfast, the people in front of me, oh, Costa Rica, da, da, da. I got into Jay Rockcliffe's car and turned on the radio and was like, Costa Rica, da, da, da. Went for a dinner, Costa Rica, I just got back. And I was like, okay. Started to do the research on it. Biodiversity, Blue Zone, no army, all of the sustainable living that they're doing, the yoga aspects, the shamanistic medicine stuff, like everything that I was looking for essentially in one land. And it just made sense. So then when I wanted to go check it out, a mutual friend of mine and more of an acquaintance, but we were friends, had mentioned that he had a house down there and he would go in the off season. So I reached out to him and told him, I was wanting to check out Costa Rica and if he had any suggestions. And he told me to come to Samara, which is 45 minutes south of Nosara, which is where you come most of the time. And he let me come stay with him for a bit and just get me like integrated, with the community and stuff. And from there was an addiction. I met his real estate agent, and his real estate agent had just started a had somebody find a space to do an addictions retreat center, and they were looking for a yoga instructor and meditation instructor and stuff. So I approached them. We hit it off. I started working with them. Next thing you know, I found my own apartment. Like another synchronicity happened, and everything just kept flowing and flowing. Then the real estate agent went through all the properties, and I found that little one that I have now with the 2 little houses on it. They needed a lot of love, but it was exactly what I was looking for. The price point, like the Canadian dollar, was on par with the U.S. The timing of everything was just immaculate. All I had to do was just stay in alignment and like follow the path, and I did. And now 7 years later, I'm in such an amazing place. The property's doing phenomenal. I have an incredible support system now that's helping, like a local family that helps me with the property while I'm away, which has allowed me to come and support other friends with their projects, and just sort of come back out into the world and give people something else, and provide them with an opportunity to see the world from a different perspective. You know.
Yeah, and you've become like the Costa Rica Canadian host.
Pretty much.
I mean, there's been a whole wave of people from our circle who have come down because, Costa Rica is a place of interest for people. It's on their radar, but they need to have like a reason or a person to go visit to come down. And obviously in the last year or two, it seems like the momentum is growing and more people want to know about Costa Rica. And what's interesting from, the times that I've been is that people just like, I heard about it, then I had an opportunity, then I went, and then you meet people like, how long you lived here? Well, about 5 years. I came on vacation, never left. It seems like there are people that come and just realize like, I'm not going home, and they just stay. And, whether you're enlightened and turned on, or whether you're just, taking a break or escaping the rat race, what is it about Costa Rica you think that's drawing these people? Because it really seems like there's a real conscious community. There's a collective of people who are, on a different frequency. They're thinking about life in a different way, and they're just migrating to Costa Rica.
Yeah. Well, if we look, this might get a little spiritual, but we have meridians on the planet. We have meridian channels and anis through the body. And so Costa Rica, from my perspective and through my own, teachings and stuff, is that it's essentially like the bolt that holds North and South America together. It's a very, very powerful energetic vortex there. It's one of the only places you can see the Atlantic and the Pacific side, the volcanoes, the line of fire. It's a very, very powerful energy in that land, and it can draw certain people because of that energy, the peace. There's a deep sense of peace. There's a deep resonance there. When people come, so I get renters sometime and they're all fired up when they arrive, but for 3 days they fall asleep because it just, their body lets go and it allows them to re-energize. And when they do come back, they're in a whole different place than when they first arrived. A deeper sense of like self, essentially, more grounded. The air is clean. The water's clean, the food is clean, there's so many little variables. And then the community, that pura vida lifestyle, like the being raised with that as a local, that mentality of pura vida, pure life, like you can't change the things that you can't change. So don't worry about them. Don't let them affect you, because you can't do anything about it anyways. And to sit there and start to pour more crap on top of it just makes it worse. So find the things that do make you happy and really just tend to your garden, like the things that are immediately, the people that you can help, the way that you can affect the world around you and the people that you love, and even strangers when they need it. Then it ripples out. But to try to look at these big things that you can't do anything about, I think that mentality, being raised with it, really just creates a certain resonance within the local community. And as long as you're coming in with a deep sense of respect for them and not as this intrusive, arrogant, overtaking and all of those things. I didn't want to use the term, but it's the truth. Then they welcome you with open arms. Like I'm really grateful for how much love I get from them. By the time I ride from my house to town, like 30, 40 people just smiling and waving like, hola, ¿cómo está? Pura vida, morning, la. That's a special energy, as opposed to being in the streetcar where everybody's got their heads down, bumping into you, and no contact, and honking, and like, get out of the way. It's such a polarity.
It is a very different way of life. And that's what, I remember after being there the first time, I just came home thinking, this is the way we're supposed to be living. We are supposed to be in nature. We're supposed to be, taking our time, enjoying our food, not so stressed and pressured for the next goal, the next accomplishment, the next thing to do, And I can see why some people could go and not enjoy it because they're so caught up in their world of importance that they can't even appreciate the natural, simple beauty that's there. Because, like you said, you go there, you just unplug, you relax, and you realize we don't need all the things that we stress out about back in North America to be happy.
Yeah.
A fresh mango, the sound of the ocean, some, stray dogs. Hey, it's a good
bikini
day.
walking by.
A bikini, some surfing, whatever, fresh coconut water. Just these simple things bring us happiness, But it's when we live in this city, when we live in this bubble of having what's next, needing, wanting these possessions, and that we really don't have to have.
I always say, like, we're very powerful creators. We've created everything. This whole world we've created. The problem, though, with creation and creating things is it's very hard to uncreate them sometimes.
Sure.
And so learning how much power we have and making sure that when we do apply it, it's to something that is the benefit of all and uplifting, right?
Yeah.
Because once we bring it into the physical, it can be very hard to undo it. And that just ties into what we're dealing with now at this time, as a collective.
It seems that more and more people are starting to question their own reality. It seems like there is this conscious awakening of people, asking themselves, what are they grinding so hard for? Is what they're sacrificing really worth the end goal or result, And it's interesting, and obviously a big part of the reason why I created the Alive experience is I was just having more and more conversations with people who are very successful, have all the things that would be considered, successful and accomplished, and they're just like, but I'm not happy, but there's something more, there's something missing. And they don't know what the missing is because they think they have everything that they wanted. And, there's that quote or meme or whatever that, all answers can be found in nature. And I think, Costa Rica, I shouldn't say think, I believe and know that, being in an environment like Costa Rica or like Tofino or anywhere where you're just in nature, your mind gets to just slow down and be calm, and that rush of thoughts subsides. And in that calmness, there's clarity in being able to really prioritize what is important without that little voice going off a mile a minute.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah. And then that's why, it's great to see more people are interested in coming to Costa Rica, and hopefully it doesn't change, too much, like Nassau or Samara, and starting to become like, the more commercialized place like Tamarindo or Jaco, because, most parts of Costa Rica are still underdeveloped or still in development, and there's that rawness and there's that peace and tranquility there, and I think that's very important for people to experience that so they can just slow down.
100%.
They got to get on a plane, fly to another country, check into a hotel so they can slow down.
I know, it's crazy.
Sad but true, and hey, as long as they're doing it, that's all that's important.
No, for sure. That's the first step, right?
Yeah, the intentionality and just putting yourself in that environment situation where, okay, now I'm ready to relax.
Exactly.
So we just spent a week together out in BC for a live experience, and you were a big help. Thank you for coming up, from Costa Rica and taking a break from the jungle to join me in the forest.
Well, I'm glad I got to reconnect with my motherland too.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. And you were quite involved there with leading the yoga and the meditation, and really you played a very important part for me, which was being able to hold space and have one-to-one conversations with each one of the guests, because I was running around trying to do everything.
Yeah, I know. It's challenging.
Yeah, sure. And like, I want to ask you, like, what was the experience like for you? Because you were there engaging with each person, having those conversations.
It was amazing. It was really nice. As I said, being in Costa Rica, I've sort of extracted myself from the world to a degree. And at least, you know, I have my property, so I have renters coming in and stuff. So I'm used to holding that space for people, and it's great when you can connect with people and see from their eyes, you know, where they're coming from, what their gifts are, where their weaknesses are, and those things. So being able to come into that space and see this group of, you know, people kind of enter and not know each other, and everybody's sort of just like, what am I doing here? How did I get here? And then to see it like just slowly start to harmonize and integrate, and people start to let go. And, you know, we had that one moment that night where everybody just, the laughter, that moment of laughter was the tipping point, where everybody was able to let go, and just like tears coming out. We didn't know what we were laughing at. It was just so beautiful. And so for me, that was the moment when I saw everybody let go and harmonize. Because even the next morning for the classes and stuff, it was like hugs, and like communication was effortless. And that was really beautiful. The hike that day when we got everybody to take their shoes off, you know, and step outside of the comfort zone, and it turned into one of the most beautiful days, you know, in a long time.
And again, that day was just all about nature. It wasn't even about mountain biking.
We didn't spend a penny.
It was just walking barefoot in the jungle, in the forest, and falling into a very cold lake.
Glacier,
although
water
you
lake.
Didn't fall. Well, you did eventually,
end,
but you did the walk.
So yeah, you know, it was great, and just sort of supporting what's sort of happening with me in my personal life in regards to the property doing well, having that support team come. It's allowing me to come back out into the world and start teaching again, because I've taken a bit of hiatus from that, just really focusing on the project. So being able to start travel again, start to reconnect with people, and you know, do what I really love to do, which is inspire people and help people get clarity. Because I'm lucky to live where I am and see things very clearly, and have the time and energy to do research on things and like really get down to the root of certain issues, where a lot of people don't. They're so overwhelmed with just trying to get to work and pay the rent, and you know, you tell them something, they're like, I don't want to think about it. So I think being able to give people a space where they're able to just step away from everything, have a moment to breathe, to relax, to get outside, you know, have a little excitement, have speakers come in and share their life experience, health, wellness, all of those things. They're in a much more receptive place to be able to take that information and that knowledge. And so to be a part of that was really good, and it really I don't know, I was really happy with the whole experience and with everybody, and just to see the smiles and, you know, be able to see you becoming successful with your new path too, it means a lot. It's special.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm super happy with the way it went. It was great. You know, you get a group of strangers together and just like, you don't know, how is this gonna go? And and then by the end of the trip, everybody's family, they're hugging, they're planning reunions now, and it's pretty awesome. So you're heading back to Costa Rica soon.
Next week,
and you're busy there. You got your property that you own and manage, and then you also busy, like the winter season's coming, so then you're going to be DJing quite often.
Well, the low season for me, not so much. That's more my time for reflection. When the rainy season comes in, it's less tourism, but that's my time to go in. I don't really go out that often, and really just sort of review the year for myself, and you know, everything that was working, things that I wasn't. Sort of the next step for the property, which is also to turn it into a boutique retreat center, like small, also to allow other people to come facilitate their own things, and to do a lot of work on the property that I'm not able when there's renters, you know, saws and sanding and all of that stuff. So that's sort of my little window to get all of those things done before December arrives, and the property's full again, and I can't really do anything except take care of people. And then that's the DJing and the yoga classes and workshops and medicine ceremonies and stuff. So,
And when season kicks off, you're spending most of your time in Osara, and playing a bunch of different locations there. And what's the music scene like? What's the whole DJ vibe? Because I mean, you know, obviously Costa Rica is pretty chill. They have the Envision Festival, and I'm sure from time to time there are DJs that come in or whatnot. But I mean, I don't know it to be.
It's more of a live music place, and there's a huge Rastafarian culture there.
Okay.
So it's a lot of reggae, reggaeton, salsa, you know, like the local stuff, and I love it. I mean, I really do. But at the same time, every day, all day, can be a little
Maybe
bit
a little bit
much. So when I came there and nobody was playing house music, especially like deep house, Afro house, tribal stuff, you're in the jungle and you know the beaches and stuff. So I just started throwing these little events at friends' venues, and they started doing really well, and it just picked up. And now it's, you know, Nosara. Last year I was playing 4 or 5 nights a week, and the locals are starting to love it. You know, they're like, I don't know why I like I want to dance, you know. And I'm like, good, that's awesome. It's nice to change it up, you know. It's like you listen to reggae all day. Now you can come out and have 3 hours of like house music and Afro house music and good stuff, not the commercial poppy stuff or not the club disco stuff. Like really sort of that tribal, Afro, deep, soulful, spiritual music.
With all the places that you've lived and, you know, with your history of kind of moving from place to place, do you see Costa Rica as your, you know, your forever place? Like this is where you are now? And
not if you guys all come back over there. But definitely for a while, yeah. I don't know, there's just something, like the moment I get off the plane, I pass through customs, my spine, just my tummy butterflies, and it's like, it's a very special feeling that I haven't had since I left home. That was like 20 years ago, over 20 years ago. So, you know, I built my own house there too. I got the 2 little ones, but I built my own fully loaded tree house in the back. So it's my home, it's my land. It's in this beautiful, beautiful place, and I'm just like, so much gratitude. So much gratitude.
Yeah, it's a very special place, and I'm looking forward to spending some more time there this winter. You know, it's somewhere that I feel, for where I'm at in my life right now, for that next step, for that next stage in my life, I feel it's the perfect place for me to just get to know myself on another level. You know, and I heard a great quote yesterday from a book that I'm reading. It says, and I'm not running away, I'm running into myself. You know, whereas I feel that being in Costa Rica, being in nature, not having the hectic schedule that I have here, I'll have the time and the mental space to get deep with myself and, you know, really learn and understand myself better than I ever have before. And I'm looking forward to that because you know, just for my own creativity and my own personal growth, I'm excited to see what comes out of.
It's definitely you're gonna see a lot.
Yeah, and then of course, you know, hosting the trips throughout the winter and just having more people come down and discover for themselves that, you know, there's another way to live. You know, it doesn't have to be this 24/7 grind that we're caught up in. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah. You know, maybe we'll get a few more people to come down. We'll start like our own like commune down there.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'd be like, yeah, Chris and Zark started their own cult in Costa Rica. I don't know what's going on. So you had mentioned earlier that when you had made the decision to go to Costa Rica and all these coincidences lined up.
Synchronicities,
Yeah, I don't believe in coincidences either. I think that everything happens for a reason. When you were there, just following your heart, surrendering to, I'm just going to go with it.
It was a feeling, yeah.
You met the right people, work opportunities showed up, and your life just was created because you just followed your intuition. Yeah. And I could totally relate to that because, you know, since I've decided to make this transition in my life, both personally and professionally, and let go of the things that don't serve me, it's amazing not only the new people that I've met and the opportunities that are coming into my life, but also the old friends I've had for years who I've drifted apart with, who are now re-entering my life. You know, you being one of them, Carmelinda being one of them, other people I'm just running into, and I've known for 20, 25 years. And when we're having our conversation, we're both sharing the same story. You know, I did this for a while, and I was really successful, and then this happened, and now I don't want that anymore, and now I'm here. And it just seems like that's the cycle of you know, the lifespan of, you know, you're young, you're hustling, you're working, you're accumulating all these possessions and titles, and you're building this identity, and then you get to a point, it's like, wait a minute, no, I don't want to be that person, and I don't want to have those things anymore. And then it's just about letting go, letting go of what doesn't serve you, and just trying to remove all that stuff we put on top so we can just be who we are. You know?
Well said, brother.
And it's pretty amazing. So I'm like going through that process right now, and And it's interesting. You just feel light. You feel free. And I look forward to getting rid of more stuff. You know, as we talked about when we were together last week, it's a whole minimalist lifestyle and about letting go of all these things that complicate our life, and how being I don't know if minimalist is the right term, but just by not overcomplicating our lives makes things so much easier, you know?
Totally. It's like we're walking around with all these luggage, you know? It's like, put it down, man.
Yeah.
You know, but look how good the luggage looks.
And then you have all the luggage in your room, and you open everything, and you wear 5 items out of all the luggage.
Yeah.
And the rest of it just stays there.
Exactly.
I've got a lot of luggage I got to get rid of. For someone who may not be able to visit Costa Rica as often as us or you, there are things that happen while you're there. Like, there are elements of Costa Rica, whether it be the nature, whether it be the meditation, whether it be the eating. You know, those are all things that could be done regardless of what city you live in, regardless of what country you're in. You know, how would you suggest to someone who maybe, you know, is watching this interview and say, oh, I'd love to have that calm, relaxed peace of mind, but I can't go to Costa Rica, I can't afford it, or, you know, I don't have the time to go.
Yeah.
What would you recommend to someone?
Well, I mean, I did live here for many years in Toronto, and the biggest thing for me was really just creating the time to get out in nature when I could, when I was here. Cutting down on the electronics, you know, especially when you're going to sleep, keeping it away from the bed, turning off the television. There's nothing on there. It's just you're escaping. And the problem is mostly because you're so fatigued. Mm-hmm. So it's almost better that if you come home and you're tired, instead of turning on the TV and having that, you know, that stimulation, turn it off and take the time, even practice meditation. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know how to meditate. Well, nobody did when they first started. Yeah. You know, I didn't either. And there were a lot of times where I was just like, what am I doing right now? And your mind's going a million miles an hour, but it's practice, you know, and the repetition, especially in the beginning stages, is the key. Just to really getting yourself comfortable and starting to see the repetition and the little things that all of a sudden you'll have a little breakthrough. It can be just a moment of stillness. It could be 1 second. And you're like, whoa, I didn't have a thought there.
Yeah.
And then it becomes 2, and then it's 5, and then it's 10, right? And it just keeps growing. So getting out in the nature whenever possible. And a lot of people, you know, they make excuses. The mind will always try to make an excuse because it doesn't want you to take control of your life. It wants to be in control. The heart is where we want to live, but the mind is easily programmed, right? Television, we interrupt this program because they're programming you. So we want to get out of the mind and into the heart, into nature. Nature has a resonance that will bring you back into the heart space. That's the heartbeat of nature. So diet, getting clean with your diet as much as possible, really eating locally, you know. People I go into their house and their house is filled with like pineapple and papaya and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, but you're living in Toronto and that's cultivated somewhere else. So the frequencies aren't, the body, you're telling the body that you're actually in Costa Rica, but you're not, you're here in Toronto. So the reaction of the body with the energetics of the food is creating a different frequency and it's not aligned. So really trying to shop locally. You know, and sometimes it might take a little extra work. If you're a meat eater, find the cleanest meat that you can find, pastured, grass-fed, no antibiotics, well taken care of, you know. But people, they again, you know, they're just trying to pay the bills and like make it from day to day. So they're like, well, I don't have enough time. It takes 10 seconds now with Google to be like grass-fed food or organically grown or, you know, farmed, and really trying to shop locally, eat locally, and eat seasonally, because those seasons, your body's in harmony with the resonance of the land, and so is nature. And that can start to bring a deeper alignment, which will bring more harmony into your life. The mind will start to slow down, the brain will relax, or the body will relax because they're connected. Taking time away from everything, connecting with the people that you really care about, you know, not trying to pretend that you trying to fit in with other people and going out when you don't want to go out, learning to say no.
Right.
You know, people are like, hey, come out tonight. You don't want to, but you're like, okay, because I don't want them to be disappointed in me. Yeah. No, say no. Yeah. I'm staying home. I'm going to light some candles. I'm going to put some good music on, and I'm going to have time for myself to recharge and realign and stay in alignment with the direction that I'm going.
Yeah. Yeah. Living in alignment is challenging, and it's so worth it. Yeah. It's something that, like you said, once you know what to say yes to, you know what to say no to, things really start to flow together.
Yeah.
That's definitely what I'm experiencing these days, and it's a great feeling.
Yeah, one of my teachers always said, like, make sure you close the doors that you don't want the drafts coming in or the things coming in that you don't want, because if we're leaving them open, just tons of garbage can come through. So starting to close those doors and just keeping the doorways of the energies that we want flowing into our lives, and all of a sudden we start to streamline, and life takes on this whole different feeling, you know.
Yeah.
And breathing too. Number one, breath. If I can say one thing to anybody, is take a breathing class.
Really?
Learn to breathe properly.
And that's more breathing into your belly than breathing into your
We're
chest.
usually taking unconscious breaths through the upper part of the chest. We're not using all of the breath. And when we start to pay attention to it, where our attention goes, our energy flows. So as we actually pay attention to the breath, we actually activate the energy of the breath, the oxygen, the prana, the chi. So it becomes almost like going from regular fuel to supreme, because you're engaging the universe and saying, I'm aware and I'm conscious and I'm connecting. And then the universe goes, nice.
Very cool. I'm gonna have to practice some of that. I know we did some of the breathwork classes in Whistler, and definitely.
But drawing it out into your everyday, into your every moment, right? Because, I get caught up still times as I'm on the computer and thing, and I'm trying to coordinate with friends, and then all of a sudden I catch myself, and I'm like, just take a moment, get the rhythm back again, and then once I have that rhythm going, I can start to move again.
Cool, nice.
Because you wanna hold that resonance, that energy, instead of getting pulled into everybody else's, right? Sometimes people on the street, they see me and I can see they're wound up and like, oh my God, Chris, what are you doing? Right? But they've sent the energy to me.
Yeah.
So now I can process it, and I can see they're waiting for me to come back with this, right? But I don't, and I just stop, and I just wait, and I can see them start to like, why isn't he talking? Why isn't he responding? With the energy, well, you put the ball in my court, and now I'm going to take a moment, and then find the right answers and the right way I can bring you down into my vibe instead of me getting pulled into yours.
And then both you elevating and getting to...
And then I bring them down, and I get them into this thing, and all of a sudden, 10 minutes later, they're like, oh, I feel so relaxed, man. I'm like, good. That's
could also because you also talk very slow and mellow.
That's because I hold my rhythm and my frequency.
Yeah.
And I want to bring people into that space as opposed to getting pulled into everybody else's, especially in the city.
Yeah.
You can get exhausted quickly.
Yeah, I thought it was just part of the Chris Hawk mystique.
No, when I'm home alone, I talk really fast.
Cool. Well, awesome. Thank you for making the time. I know you're like high in demand while you're here in Toronto. You're DJing here at Laval tonight.
I am, yeah.
And what other gigs you got coming up?
I got this tonight. I'm doing a friend of ours' house party in the beaches on Saturday.
All right.
And then Sunday I'm at the Thompson Hotel for
Is that Rob?
my last set.
Rob, okay, nice.
Yeah. My last set will be Sunday at the Thompson, and by the pool. And just, it's nice to have this support. It allows me to have a place where I can have a lot of people come together and just sort of say hi and reconnect and stuff.
Yeah, people get excited to see you. And then there's also an opportunity for you to bring people to the jungle.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, it's been a pleasure having you in Toronto and Whistler, and I'll be seeing you in Costa Rica soon.
Yeah, November.
Looking forward to co-creating with you. It's gonna be a good winter. Yeah,
I'm excited about it.
All right.